Welcome back, nature freaks.
What's going on?
I'm Dave.
I'm Jeremy. This is our special guest resident zoologist and former NBA player, Brendan Baker.
Saw dude.
Today we're going to be talking all about monitor lizards. If you're not familiar with monitor lizards, they include the largest lizard in the world, the Komodo dragon.
That's right, we're going to have lizards from all over the world. We're going to have hall monitors, baby monitors, African monitors, Asian monitors. It's going to be epic, so get ready for some nature in your face. Nature in your face!
Alright guys, here we have our monitor trifecta. The monitor I'm holding is the African blackthroat monitor. It obviously gets its name because of the dark area under the neck. The rest of the body is more of a yellowish color on the bottom and this sandy color on top. Jeremy, what do you got there?
We got the Asian water monitor right here.
It's very friendly.
Yeah, and they love to climb, as you can see. He's like a lap dog, but like a 120-pound Rottweiler that thinks it can sit in your lap. That's what's going on right here.
All right, Brendan, and what do you got over there?
Over my shoulder, I got a Nile monitor. Specifically, it's an ornate monitor. Recently, they kind of differentiated the two into different species. But this is basically the African version of the Asian water monitor.
All right, so we got two African monitors. This one I named Zany. That is because the only place that you will find this particular subspecies of the rock monitor is Tanzania, Africa.
That's pretty catchy. Yeah, and this is Triton. King Triton, the water monitor. That's right. Since the second heaviest lizard in the world, he's King Triton. And this is the Sri Lankan version, so they're known to be the beast of the water monitors.
Sorry, Triton.
Oh man, your neck doesn't look comfortable.
That's okay. We trimmed the nails, so I'd be bleeding right now.
No, we're not getting ripped up. On my shoulder, I have Nessie. Nessie's named after the Loch Ness Monster because these are a kind of lizard that spend a lot of time in the waters of the Nile River. You'll find them diving deep down, chasing after fish. Now, we got a climber too.
Which is where the Loch Ness Monster is
Where the Loch Ness Monster is known to be found, the Nile River in the middle of Scotland.
In the Scottish Nile.
Check out the different colors. The colors on these two lizards are more similar, and they look, the spots, yellow, like sunlight. The shade and shadow around it would be the black scales. This guy's colored more like sand. He lives in semi-arid areas just southeast of the Sahara Desert. So he wants to look like the color of sand, where those guys more forested and, like they said, aquatic.
Highly aquatic.
Switch this guy up a little
Now,
bit.
what's kind of funny is these guys are not used to being near each other. So they're
Look
moving
at
around,
that.
they're checking each other out. They're kind of like, hey, what's going on, you know? Because in the wild, they're not going to hang out like buddies. They will fight. The only time the monitors really get along is when they might team up to go after a meal, but then they're just kind of putting up with each other to get that food source.
Speaking of that, teaming up, these are one of the most intelligent lizards on the planet. They will hunt cooperatively. These particular monitors, the blackthroats, love to eat crocodile eggs. And one of the monitors will distract the female crocodile while the other one digs up the nest and robs it of the eggs. That's pretty awesome that they hunt cooperatively. You think only a mammal would be able to do that, but these reptiles, they're known for their intelligence.
Regarding the intelligence, these lizards can also be trained to do various different things. People have harness trained them. My girl Nessie, she can walk around in the harness. She kind of tells me where to go normally, but she is okay with having things on her. She sometimes wears costumes too when it comes around to Halloween.
Got one ass.
Wait, are we still talking about the lizard?
Yeah, so we're talking about,
okay.
yeah, I wear my costumes, I got my princess costume. But this girl, she is very good about having things on her and being placed on her, and she'll kind of just sit pretty nice.
You notice that they
We're
use
doing a
their tail.
windmill over here.
Yeah, right.
That tail's
Yeah, forgive us. We're going to have to pick them up, put them down. These guys are very powerful. I'd say Jeremy's is probably the longest, maybe 5.5, almost 6 feet. This one is just over 5 feet. Yours will eventually get 5 feet, but it's
Probably
probably
about
small.
5. Males typically get about 7 feet for Niles.
We got the tallest guy holding the smallest monitor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, with the Asian water monitor, they're definitely going to average between 4.5 to 6.5 feet. Although there was a beast on record that was found to be over 10 foot. Isn't that insane? That's a huge lizard. Can you imagine that?
Get this
10
guy back on
foot.
me. There we go. Hey, you know, another thing about intelligence that I found fascinating, I read this, it's not only scientists that figure things out about these lizards, both in captivity and in the wild. It's always, often an amateur person who discovers something interesting about animals, And in this case of the black-throat monitor, bird watchers witnessed on many occasions black-throat monitors waiting next to a nest of hatchling birds or even the eggs before they hatch. And what they're doing is they're waiting for the parents to get back, then they'll eat the larger birds first, then they'll eat the chicks or the eggs. So they seem somehow to know that if they eat the chicks first, the parents might not return. So how cool is that? Mom and dad for dinner, babies for dessert. Pretty cool.
Scrumptious.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, also regarding the intelligence, Triton here, if he'll stop trying to climb over there,
Wants to hang out with the girl.
he's target trained. And Dave brought up the Komodo dragon earlier in the opener, and they do this with Komodo dragons. And what that means is before they feed them, to interact with them, they put a target on the end of a stick, they show it to the monitors come to the target, then they get fed. And what's cool about that is they can use that not just to feed them, but when they interact, the monitors know they're not being fed, they don't go after the keeper. And if they need to have vet work done, they can move them with the target as opposed to having to pick the monitor up. They'll literally just come to the target and follow it.
Yeah, and make no mistake about it, the reason you want to do that is because a bite from a large monitor like this, not fun. They can take fingers, or at the worst, you're getting a lot of stitches. They have very powerful jaws and very big teeth in the mouth. Now they are, interestingly enough, pretty easy to train not to bite. It just takes a little bit of handling. So if you have them in captivity, you pick them up all the time, you're going to get a sweet monitor just like the 3 that we're holding here.
Yeah, Nessie's just chilling there.
Nessie's super
He's
chill.
being the super sweet one. I
Which
gotta
is-
put this guy down again.
Which is super weird for Nile monitors. Normally, Nile monitors are very well known for being absolute, like, crazy kids trying to defend their setups, go after each other, go after the people that own them. Basically, people like to call them ninjas with knives for feet. You're taking care of your house, where they're just going after whatever is coming too close to them. Nessie's a very chilled out girl. She's super used to being around people. And that's really good for when we're doing shows, that I don't just have an absolutely crazy lizard going after kids. That wouldn't be good.
Yeah, Jeremy, your lizard's probably known the most for being the most chill in captivity.
Yeah,
Whereas Nile monitors, and shedding.
not today.
Yeah, Nile monitors take a lot more work. I've had some really nice, tame Nile monitors, and it takes a lot of work to get them to be as sweet as the one that Brendan's holding over there.
But even in the wild, the Asian water monitor is known to tolerate the presence of people. They're found in a lot of inner city canals and along the waterways, even like in parks where people would hang out and walk around. There'll be the water monitors just hanging out, in the canal on the edge, right near the sidewalks, right where the city people are, just looking for maybe the random bird or turtle coming in for a snack.
We probably should have mentioned the tongue. I mean, they're constantly flicking their tongues out. As you're aware, snakes smell with their tongues. Well, they're not the only reptiles to do so, so are lizards. And what's amazing about monitors is they can literally smell food buried in the earth up to a foot. Can you imagine putting your nose to the ground and smelling your dinner a foot under the ground? That's pretty amazing. Well, they have that because often they eat things that live underground, like I already mentioned, the crocodile eggs. But they'll dig up burrows of rodents or rabbits or whatever it is that they smell, and they'll try to make a meal out of it. So they're generalists. They eat pretty much anything they can catch and put in their mouth.
Now you're saying they eat crocodile eggs like it's not a big deal, but think about that. Guess what's near the crocodile eggs? The mama crocodile.
Mm-hmm.
And they are very protective of their eggs.
The funny thing is, it's like one of the tightest circle of life kind of like circles that there is, because these monitors will go after crocodile eggs or the crocodile babies, while adult crocodiles will actually go after full-grown adult monitors. So the monitors get eaten by crocodiles, and the crocodile babies get eaten by the monitors. Just a real tight circle.
Karma.
Things getting eaten.
Now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring this tongue by. You got to see a close-up of this fork tongue. Look at that. There it is. How sweet is that? That tongue is a foot in length. Looks like 2 tongues. It's obviously forked, and that's because of the paired organ at the roof of the mouth that we always talk about, the Jacobson's organ. All right.
You guys want to see my tongue?
Not
That
really.
was cool.
Look at these two just chilling.
They're like, hey man,
It's
Just
really
settle
awesome.
down.
I don't know you, but we should totally fight right now.
All right, let's talk about the scalation of these lizards. We'll get some B-roll so you can see this up close, but the black-throat monitor has the largest and very pronounced or raised scales, and those are like armor. They serve
Like a
two
dragon.
purposes. Yeah.
Dragon scale.
Two purposes. To protect the lizard from something that might bite or scratch it. Sometimes these things fight. Also, it prevents water from escaping. So the scales will hold in the moisture. Reptiles do not have to drink very often. They don't have sweat glands. So those scales aid in holding in that water so that they don't have to drink.
Yeah, and not to mention, like, if you think about the habitat, you know, these guys are highly terrestrial with a lot of sand, abrasive, but then you have more aquatic lizards and they need less drag in that water, so they're going to have smaller scales, much smaller scales, so they can move through that water.
Yeah, and when I said they don't have to drink, I meant don't have to drink often. If you have one in captivity, you do have to provide it with the water bowl.
What about the head size, Brendan? Because if you notice Brendan's Nile monitor,
It's dinky.
it has a teeny tiny little head.
She's got a little face on her. There's a few reasons why they have a face like that. These are very highly piscivorous or fish-eating lizards.
Oh, he's gonna whack.
We're having a
Got
fun
him,
day.
got him. It's the monitor dance.
But they're very highly piscivorous, so they eat a lot of fish. So they have that smaller head to kind of like maneuver around. It's a little bit easier than having a big clunky head getting in the way. But they also can use that smaller head to go down into holes to catch rodents. These are very commonly hunting down rodents on the shorelines of the Nile River. And sometimes you can see them chasing them through the thick grasses. Normally the rodents will get away if they're in a straight up race. But if they get them by surprise, they're done.
I just want to point out really quick, if you do not cut your monitor's nails,
Just about to mention.
do not hold them like that,
No.
or I'd be bleeding right now.
Not only
Yeah,
that,
horror
it'll
movie.
shred any shirt or clothing that they touch. So you're gonna have holes in your shirt and sweatshirt if you try or attempt to hold these things without their nails being clipped. Also, we should probably mention the tail. We mentioned the teeth, we mentioned the claws, both very sharp. But the tail might even be worse than both. These things have very powerful muscular tails. They'll swing them and they will whack you. A big one like this, not something you want to feel, trust me.
And the tails are even built differently. We'll zoom in on that, but the water in the Nile have more laterally compressed tails. So like a
Yep.
crocodilian, skinny with like a blade running on the top, and then the black
It's
throat,
like a fin.
yeah, much thicker. And the top of that tail, man, that will mess you up. The spikes and the raised ridges on top of the black throat tail, that's a good weapon they have right there.
It's like a baseball bat being swung at you.
It's like nails driven through it. Now I want to get back on something really quick. When Dave talked about, so did I, trimming the nails, keeping these as pets. That's one of the most important things. In the enclosures, they also have a lot of room that they can climb, dig, move. That wears the nails down. So trimming these guys' nails are pretty minimal for us. We do use them in educational shows, which means that children are going to pet them and handle them. So we have to make sure the nails are not sharp at all, because a little accidental scratch could be bad in the show and could instill fear in the child. So, but their enclosures need to be built appropriately for these animals, and that can be hard to keep. Don't you agree with that?
Right, especially with their enclosures, they need a lot of space compared to most of those, of course, because they're gigantic. But these are very active lizards. They will move around, they'll check things out, they're very inquisitive, they like doing other stuff. So these guys require a lot of space, which a lot of people aren't ready to do. Something about Nile monitors is that Nile monitors are the second most sold monitor lizard in the United States, even though they're probably one of the worst ones to keep, just because how like crazy they can be.
And they're cheap, which is even worse.
Yeah. The reason they're so cheap is because of how many are imported. They're mainly imported in big old batches of just a bunch of babies that they catch. And they are not used to being around people. A lot of them die from parasites early on. But because these are the second most sold, very often you'll see people keeping these in way too small enclosures that will harm them in the long run, potentially even stunting their growth, which is not something you want to be doing with these animals.
Yeah, they're kind of the green iguana replacement. Now, I
Right.
mean, it used to be green iguanas just got, they come in by droves, and most of them would die. And same thing with the iguanas. If you're not holding them, they're not going to be nice animals. They're going to be very defensive. And same thing with the Nile. Any of these monitors, if you don't work with them, they're not going to be nice naturally. They're going to fear you, and they're going to associate you with just food. And if you got bit by one of these, you can get messed up. These guys, the water monitors, have like the serrated teeth.
Right, like shark teeth.
And I mean, their teeth are used for grabbing and tearing.
Speaking of that, let's talk about food. They are pretty easy to food. They are carnivorous. Younger ones.
Very easy to food.
Very easy to
Did I just say that?
Yeah.
Let me
I
change
like
that.
No, you're
Speaking
fine.
of food,
They're easy to
they're
feed.
very easy to feed, not food. Anyway, they are strictly carnivorous. Now when they're smaller, you can give them a lot of insects. They're tiny. When they hatch, they're little guys, so you can give them little pieces of meat. When they get bigger, not only can you feed them, the rodents that you can buy at the pet stores, but you can give them chicken, you can give them beef, you can give them fish. You don't have to cook it. You just rip open that package, bone and all. You throw it in there, he'll chow it. And you have to keep them very warm as well. That helps aid in the digestion of that food. So you're going to want to have a heat lamp, a basking area, of course, with any reptile. But these guys, they need that heat because if you give them food and you don't have the proper heat, they won't digest that properly. That food will rot in their system. It can cause a lot of health problems. So make sure you know what you're doing when you get a baby monitor so you have a nice big healthy one down
Yeah,
the
I
road.
mean, they're not beginner pets, monitors at all. Now, there are a few species of smaller monitors, so it might be
Saying they're not
okay.
good for your 4-year-old?
I mean, no, definitely not. Ackies, those are super cool monitors. And then we have another monitor we're going to bring out in a minute. We'll talk about that. That makes a good pet. But for the most part, they don't make good beginner reptiles because they do require a lot of space. They can inflict some painful bites and scratches. And also, they're high maintenance. They need a lot of heat. They need a variety in their diet.
They also have an external eardrum. And interestingly, they can close that ear, not like an eyelid, but they have a flap of skin that they can fold over. All right, guys, we're going to bring out another monitor lizard that looks more like the one I'm holding. So we already talked about the Savannah and the Nile monitor looking similar. We're going to bring out another monitor that looks a lot more like this guy.
Yeah, we're going to get rid of the Asian water monitor, and we're going to do all African species really quick and
Cool.
compare them. So it'll be cool.
Let's have an African party.
All right, so we are back, and we have swapped out the Asian water monitor for all African lizards. Brendan, what do you got there?
So I got the new one with us. This is what's known as a Savannah monitor. If you're European, you might call it a Bosque monitor. The Bosque monitor. Now, this animal comes from sub-Saharan Africa. You'll find them all over that region, and these are mainly insectivores. You'll find them eating a lot of the larger beetles and cockroaches. You'll see them going after snails and all sorts of other animals that they can find in those areas they can crush up. They have very similarly shaped heads to the rock monitors, where they have a much more pronounced nasal bone that kind of points out forward above their nostrils.
Yeah, compare that to this,
You
once
compare it to
again.
Nessie. Nessie's got a much more pointed face. She's more of that aquatic lizard that needs to be more
It's still
streamlined.
adorable.
Yep, and that's full size for this lizard. He's a little monitor compared to these guys.
Yeah, so this guy's not going to get much bigger than this. There are a lot of people that get these Savannah monitors and they just feed it like, they'll feed it like dog food, they'll give it turkey, they'll give it a bunch of like really fatty foods. And they'll get a big monitor, but it will end up being a pretty unhealthy one because they can develop what's known as fatty liver disease, which shortens your monitor's life a good bit. These guys are mainly supposed to be eating insects. You can give them a little bit of like pinky mice. You can give them some small rodents every once in a while, but you don't want to be doing that too much. Otherwise, just like your uncle that's eating too many cheeseburgers on the weekends, you're going to have some problems with his health.
Yeah, fatty liver disease. That does not sound tempting, like to anyone. So if
No.
that doesn't tell you, you need to do your research before you get any pet reptile. But see, that's where the confusion comes in. Oh, this is a monitor. Let's just give it mice, rats, birds, and that's it. No, they actually have a very different diet, like he was talking about, the insectivorous diet. And that's extremely important that you know how to care for these animals before you just go get one, before you snag that $40 Nile at the pet store and it's trying to murder you in your sleep. You want to do your research.
All right, guys. Well, as you've learned, monitors can make very rewarding pets. They're not for beginners, so we hope you learned a lot. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, we hope you'd like and subscribe to our channel so you can get some more nature in your face.
It sounds right, boy.